Hey, Chavez. Hey, Mike. Hi, Lynn.
We'll give it about another minute. We'll get started. Well, you know what? I think it's go time. Let's go ahead and get started. I got top of the hour. So first of all, welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday evening. I'm Dr. Eric Nepute. Welcome to our Wealthy Wednesday night. I'm so excited to be with you tonight. Just like every Wednesday, love being with everybody, love sharing information with everyone, love getting a chance to really help elevate, get everybody another opportunity to dig deeper. Knowledge is power, but wisdom is taking that knowledge and applying it to your life. And I'm really excited because we're being joined tonight by Miss Trish. And many of you already know her. You've already said, hey, Trish, thumbs up, Trish. We love Trish. Everybody loves you, Trish. So first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your crazy busy world to hang out with me a little bit tonight. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. This is truly an honor to be here with you. And I look up to and respect you so much for what you have done in the last few years for health and wellness and for freedom, for freedom and knowledge. And it's just an honor to be here with you.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled by that. And so because what I want to do is I just want to kind of talk a little bit, and then I want to talk tonight to everybody a little bit about really reading the reports and talking about really, because it seems so complicated, right? But once you do it a few times, it really becomes second hat. It's very simple. It's easy to understand once you do it a few times, kind of like anything, new. It takes a little bit of understanding, and then it just takes jumping into it. And then once you get into it a few times, then, you're a pro at it. So I'm really looking forward to having that conversation. But before we do that, I want to share something with everybody that's kind of cool that we've been working on here in St. Louis. So many of you guys know that I do a lot of research. We do a ton of research in our practices, and we do a lot of research on improving health. And anyway, long story short, we are very fortunate. There's an imaging center, a college here, Logan University. It's a chiropractic school. It's a health and wellness school. It's here in St. Louis, Missouri. And we actually are participating now in a brain gut imaging study that we've got some of our patients, and I'm going to be one of the contributing authors to. So Trish, what's really cool is we're now able to measure on an MRI the brain gut connection. And what's so cool about this, we've been talking about brain gut in healthcare for over 115 years. We've been talking about it in the practice of healthcare, in the practice of medicine. But what's so cool now is we actually have imaging that we can measure the brain-gut connection, and we are now starting to play with some of our products, some of the other things to stimulate the vagus nerve. All the things that we're talking about, we're actually putting it into research now. So it's really, really cool. It's never been done before. So I'm excited that we're going to be talking about our gut triad and being able to have literally functional MRI images that we're going to be able to share with everybody. So it's really exciting. I know that there's people that are watching us online on the Happiness Gut Connection as well. So I can't wait to share with you all the data and research that we're going to be putting out. It really is going to take what we're doing and really take it to the next level. So I just wanted to kind of tease everybody a little bit on that, share a little bit of that with everybody. And more to come on that. So anyway, so cool, so great. Trish, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit. I hear through the grapevine, and I know you're super humble about this, but I was talking to Robert earlier. I was like, listen, Trish is a freaking rock star. She has really stepped up and knows how to explain these DNA reports and has been using nutrition for quite some time in your own life, and been talking to practitioners about this for quite some time. So maybe just take a couple minutes and kind of tell us your story a little bit, who you are, what you've been doing, and your experience with nutrition and your experience with, the genetic reports. And then we can get into, reading the reports and et cetera, if you're cool with that.
Sure. Yes, I would love to. maybe 3.5 years ago, I had, is when I came into this and learned everything about this. But during the birth of my second baby, that's kind of when I think all my genes started expressing, looking back. I got really sick and had every symptom that you could think of. And I went from doctor to doctor, and I was given a lot of diagnoses, a lot of disease states, a lot of autoimmune diseases, and they wanted to put me on a lot of medications. I'm a green personality. I like to study and research, and I just did not like the side effects of the medications. I wasn't willing to go there. So I started taking my health into my own hands, tried every way of eating, every lifestyle thing. And then I went the natural route with all the doctors, the naturopaths and the functional medicine doctors. And I'd get so far and I'd feel better. I'd get a lot more different diagnoses too, and about 52 bottles of supplements a lot of the times. And I went on a protocol from a doctor, a famous doctor who had written books. And I was, for Epstein-Barr virus, I was given $1,800 worth of supplements. I was taking literally 52 pills for 3 months. And I became like bedridden. And basically, I was done at that point. I was like, if I end up in a wheelchair at 50, I guess I'm in a wheelchair, you know? I'm 46 now and I've never felt better, but I was just at my wit's end of trying everything. When my neighbors are sitting, you know, eating Doritos and Mountain Dews, and I'm prepping every little food perfectly and thinking, it's in my head. People are thinking I'm a hypochondriac at this point. And there's nothing like feeling when you look normal and good on the outside, but just going on a hike or something could put you in bed for 3 days. Yeah. So there was one doctor in town, and this is like 7 years ago, that someone said, go to this doctor. And I went, and he looked at my labs, and he asked if he could do a new test that he'd heard of for MTHFR. It was just that one gene, right? And that got me on that path. So then when I heard about this, and that, you know, I had my best friend at the time tell me about this, and she ran to me. We were on this big health journey, and I was so excited to even know that there was more genes and that there was something custom. I was so excited. So when I got the test, I remember driving home on a 13-hour car ride home getting my report electronically, and literally sitting there researching every single sign, symptom, what that gene was, and just crying the whole way home, because for the first time I realized it wasn't in my head, that literally it was just my genes expressing, and that I had hope. I had so much hope. And so interestingly enough, the geneticist and one of the formulators and who helped make these reports at the time lived in my town here in St. George. Yeah. So I went to her office, booked an appointment, brought my report straight to her. I was the very first person to bring it to her. And I said, I want to know everything about me and how you can help me, you know? And she was excited. We did before and after blood work. And so within 3 months there, you know, I was not on any thyroid medications. My labs were all normal. And most importantly, those symptoms were gone within 3 months for me. And so I've been on it now for over 3.5 years. And my passion and purpose is to help people. I've attracted a lot of people because of my story that are in the same boat as me. You attract, you know, what you are. And so I love seeing that hope come into people's eyes. I love being able for them to understand their body and how it functions. And it's their blueprint. It's how your body functions at a cellular level. And we can do things to optimize it. It's not, you know, it's not a weapon.
That's right. Well, first of all, Trish, that is a great story. And let me tell you that, you know, most great things and great opportunities come out of great struggles and great tests, right? And you did an amazing thing where you took your test and made it a testimonial. Now you have the opportunity to change the lives of who knows how many millions of people along the way because your experience. And, you know, I'm from Missouri, right? It's the show me state. And at the end of the day, I don't really care what people say. It's all what they do and the results that they get, right? It's all about, let me show you. And this system showed you the way. And like you said, it gave you something that you hadn't had. And a lot of people and I want you to pay attention to this, everybody listening right now, a lot of people that are out there that have chronic illness, which is, Trish, it's so common right now. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but 1 in 54 children have at least one form of chronic illness. Upwards of 75 to 80% of the adult population has at least one form of chronic illness that they just don't know how to get help with. And the standard healthcare system doesn't have a solution for them. And so you actually having hope, to me, I always tell my patients, hope is the catalyst to give you an opportunity to get healthy again. If you don't have hope, then you're not going to proceed, or you're not going to really move forward with what you need to do. And so when you were able to get that report, and it was all about you, it was all about Trish, it said your name at the top, and it was all about your genetics, your DNA. This is literally a book of you, right? And by the way, there's so much more that we're learning every day about those genes, how you can apply that to your individual life. So you obviously got the map on what you should do. You put it into play, and here you are now. You said that you're feeling better, you're doing amazing, you're off a lot of your medications, and now you're continuing on your health journey. But now part of your journey is to share this with other people, right? I mean, that's a big piece of what's in your heart to do now, correct?
Yeah, we call it healing and serving. That's what we do.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. You have such a calm intensity about you. That's because I know that you know this information, and you want probably more than anything to share this with everybody, because you want people to have the same experience, or at least the opportunity to have the same experience that you did. And by the way, you and I have the same heart with this. I love nothing more. I mean, one of the most joyful things that I have every day in my life is seeing that aha moment, that switch turn on in somebody's eyes. You literally can see that spark of fear go back to faith, and now facts. Like, I know what to do for myself. So I know, I mean, you and I could talk about just this all night. I know that you're going to share your screen. Would you be willing to maybe kind of go through, how to read a report, talking about reports? I mean, I'd love to hear how you go through reading a report from I don't want to call it a layperson, because you're not. You're an expert on this, because I mean, I'm going to tell you, I tell my doctors this all the time. I said, you better study all of this stuff, because I deal with functional medicine and chronic illness. That's my bread and butter, right? And I'll tell you, most of our patients know more than most of the doctors out there do about their own specific illness. And I know you could probably attest to that. And sure. Let me ask you this before we get into your actual, reading of the report and etc. What did it mean to you? Like, what was that feeling like when you first saw that this was a report about you? Like, what changed in you?
I think honestly, it was empowering. It was just empowering. It gave me direction that I didn't have before. I felt I was in the dark and guessing, and everyone was guessing along with me. Let's try this. Let's try this.
And isn't that the truth? I really want everybody to understand this, is that there really is no playbook for chronic illness out there. There's all kinds of really great, good-hearted, right idea functional medicine doctors out there, but there's a reason, Trish, why they call it being in practice. And they're practicing on your patients and practicing on you to try to get a result. And what's so frustrating as a functional medicine practitioner is having people that have the same symptoms but different causes, and not having the right testing to go and find the cause of the problem, and then not being able to have a solution when you do find out the cause of the problem. That's what I love about these genetic tests, is we get right to the root cause. I mean, you can't get any more root specific than your genetics. And then we can customize a game plan based off of your own individualized, your own chemistry, your own biology, your own physiology. This is Trish's formula and nobody else's, which is why you get the result and other people haven't. So let's talk a little bit about reading these reports, talking about it. Obviously, you've looked at lots of reports. You probably have probably read a lot of other people's reports, and you probably taught a lot of doctors how to do this. So you tell me how you want to do it. You want to share your screen? You want to just talk about it? Whatever you want to do, we'll do.
I will share my screen. So when I go over someone's report, I really meet them where they're at, because you have to ask questions. You have to see their interest level, because I could talk like you. I could talk about this all day long, but you can see when they start, right? So my specialty is taking the science and making it translate into English. That's what I want it to I don't want to keep it simple as you can, because most people, you know how long we've been studying this, and they're not going to retain what you say. They are not. There's very few that'll just sit there and scribble notes. And then we always have amazing videos from you. If they want to dive deeper, that I direct them to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to be the doctor. I don't need to play that. I just want them to get the value and see that this can help them and understand it so that they can implement it. That's the whole point. We want them to implement healthy habits, and we want them to take their nutrition. So they got to see the value in that. Okay, let me screen share right now. Okay, let's see. Can you see this report?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, perfect.
Let me pull it up a little bit more. Okay, so when I sit down with someone's report, it really is a chance to get to know them. Just like when you're building relationships, you're asking them questions. I usually have mine printed out with them so I can sit down and walk through my actual report with them. Yeah. I always usually touch on my own story too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna scroll all the way down, you guys. This is the dashboard of your health. And I will tell them it's very easy to understand. It's like a traffic light. Green, genetically, you're not predisposed. That doesn't mean you won't have issues in that area due to lifestyle, but genetically, you're good to go. And we don't put anything in your supplement for that. Yellow, it's like caution, watch out for this. This is something that we need to be aware of. And red is like, stop, you need to take action on this gene, right? For it takes action on you. Yellows can be expressing as well. And I do tell them that a lot of these genes kind of correlate in groups. And even though they're in alphabetical order, you know, we test for 4 or 5 heart genes, and we test for 3 different detox pathways and MTHFR as well. So if you have a yellow in every single detox pathway, to me, that's pretty much a red, right? So that's where we need to really focus on. I will then walk them through. I just show them the nutrition here because this is seriously one of the best things on the planet that nobody else has. Custom compounds your formula. Used to be done by hand, by the way. So that machine came around.
Yep.
Okay. So I will just start and I will tell them it's very easy to understand. The report, because when you ask people, did you read your report? They're like, oh, I didn't understand it. So that's what we're doing. The purpose, the importance, and the function. So I will say, how's your cholesterol levels? Is that running your family? Is your parents or grandparents on cholesterol meds? What about you? I get them thinking. And we talk a lot about this is your body's ability to regulate your cholesterol in a normal range. Now, I have this gene in red, and I like to share my own examples. I have this gene in red, but my HDL, my good cholesterol, is so low that I have to get in so many. We just focus so much on LDL, right? Your bad cholesterol, but your good cholesterol affects your heart as well. And really talking about switching them off trans fats and seed oils and getting into good, healthy heart oil, healthy fats. We go over the ingredients. I always touch on the ingredients, why they're in there. And this little down here, that links you to the peer-reviewed studies. Those are outside studies on all the ingredients and why they're in your supplement. I'm gonna go a little bit faster, okay. So this one has to do with cellular energy, right? The gas in your car. So we talk about mitochondria. This gene, you won't see it in red, because it comes just from the mother. So we know this is the one gene that we know comes from the mom. And this can lead to, I don't like to talk about disease states. They used to be in the reports. They've all been removed because we don't want to scare people, right? And we'll leave that for the doctors. How tired are you? We're going to talk about how tired are you? Do you have to, do you have enough gas to get through your day? Talk about how to boost mitochondria and how to boost cellular health with HIIT workouts and intermittent fasting. So I like to incorporate a lot of lifestyle suggestions and give them a lot of ideas they can do, because there is no magic. If they just take a supplement, you can't, what's the quote?
You're not going to out supplement a crappy lifestyle.
Yeah, pretty much, right? You can't.
It's not, you're right. You have to incorporate lifestyle change, totally.
And I love that's in the beginning, we did not have those in there. That has been added. And I love that the suggestions are in there, and you can go deeper into those with them as well.
Yep.
We talk a little bit about PQQ and why it's in there, and definitely really focus a lot on intermittent fasting as well. You have a great call, all diving deep into that. Now we test for 3 different inflammatory genes: CRP, IL-6, and TNF. Has anyone, and I'll ask, have you heard of cytokines, cytokine storms? This is what that is when people were getting really, really sick, right? Overactive inflammatory response can actually shut down organs, shut down your body if you get, I don't want to, again, I have to watch what I say, right? Anyways, CRP. This is what they test. And what I love about this report is every single gene you can correlate with blood work.
Yep.
Really can.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say about this is, and especially the inflammatory markers. Those of you that speak with practitioners, most doctors and nurses and really healthcare experts will say inflammation is the root cause of most diseases. Well, most people have genetic imbalances that lead to inflammatory conditions, and so many doctors are chasing the symptoms, and so are patients, of their inflammatory response by using anti-inflammatories and some pretty heavy narcotics. And unfortunately, a lot of times, if the base level anti-inflammatories don't work and you've got these gene imbalances can lead to people going down the road of being prescribed certain medications like opioids that can be deadly and massively addicting. So one of the things that I want everybody to listen to about the inflammatory genes that are positive, that there's a war on opioids that's really going on again right now. And knowing these genes right here, Trish, are so important from a clinical standpoint. So I think it's important that, I love how you cover this so well. Your material, and I love this. But I think it's important that we also talk a little about, some of the blood correlations with this. And a lot of times your practitioners are gonna, you'll start and you'll have an HCRP positive on a blood test, or even a C-reactive protein on a blood test. Start people on the nutrition and then make 1 or 2 lifestyle tweaks like intermittent fasting and a keto type lifestyle. And then 6 months later, you run that CRP blood test or HCRP and it's gone. And it's so powerful, and it blows a lot of these practitioners' minds because, Trish, they've never seen anything like that. And sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to throw that out about this inflammatory markers. They're so important.
They're so important. And this is something that, this is the gene they test for, right? This is what they test your blood for rheumatoid arthritis and all those inflammatory diseases. And I talk about inflammation. I'll ask them, do you suffer from a lot of inflammation? Especially if I'm looking at all 3 and they have a marker in all 3. And people think of inflammation as just joint pain, but there can be inflammation in the gut, inflammation of the brain. I mean, it's systemic, right? Everywhere. So talking about what's in here, there's turmeric in here, and that's all that it says on the report. But we actually have a blend, an anti-inflammatory blend, AC11 and frankincense and astaxanthin. And then if someone had all these markers, I would really, really encourage them to get on the, what's it called now, the Nutrition Plus, because neutralize, right? Xanthan humol and all those good ingredients that are, C3 for inflammation would definitely benefit from this. But fried foods, I talk about inflammatory foods because sugar is the most highly inflammatory food. Definitely, yeah, we'll go with that one. Drinking your water, getting good spices, it's all in the report. You just are really kind of reading through it. This blood pressure gene is one that actually has affected my health tremendously. A lot of people think, oh, I don't have high blood pressure. I always ask, this is what has happened repeatedly, is the people that have this in red, and I don't know if it's because clinically people go to the doctor more for high blood pressure. A lot of them have extremely low blood pressure with this gene. And I was one of those that I would faint. I would have heart palpitations, headaches. It's made in our adrenals, aldosterone. It's a steroid hormone. And that regulates our mineral balance, our electrolytes, right? Our water, fluids. And so potassium, you can dump out too much potassium with this gene, and magnesium. So we do put that in there. That is something, again, check with your healthcare provider for blood work.
This gene, we find clinically, you're right, high and low blood pressure, people that get what's called orthostatic hypotension when they sit and stand up and get lightheaded and dizzy. This one right here, I'll tell you, we find it almost all the time with men and women that have to get up and go to the bathroom 3, 4, 5 times at nighttime. We find this a lot with people that get recurrent swelling in their ankles and their feet. They take socks off at the end of the day. They've got a big ring around their socks. We find this one as well with a lot of vision issues at nighttime because the pressure of the eyes deals with this. You're so spot on with magnesium. And I'll tell you what's interesting with this. I find this gene imbalance with low magnesium, which then can cause everything from digestive issues to muscle aches and pains, massive fatigue. And the other big thing that we find with this, not just blood pressure issues, but we find a whole lot of issues with, believe it or not, even cardiovascular, because when this gene gets messed up, it throws off all the pressures in your body, which can cause kidney stress and can cause issues with the cardiovascular system and the heart. So this one's a big one. And this one, I'll tell you, general practicing physicians are aware of certain genes, MTHFR, and this one is a common gene. And this is one that you'll find a lot of patients. Trish, I don't know if you've come across this, but they might be on 1, 2, or 3 blood pressure medications and their blood pressure is still not being regulated. You put them on the right formulations and tweak their lifestyle, all of a sudden everything normalizes out. I just wanted to make a big deal that this is one of the most recognized genes out there that also has a lot to do with adrenal fatigue problems. People that are chronically adrenal fatigued, and I used to have hair longer and more beautiful, Trish, than yours, and I've been trying to fix adrenal fatigue for so many years, when the reality of it is all I had to do was support this gene, and it's like the magic potion for it. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents on that.
Oh, those are good sense. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, exactly. And I will tell you, my blood pressure, they could never find it. Like I was the one that the nurses are taking it 4 or 5 times. Like, how are you sitting here? And it's now normal. I now have normal blood pressure. So this stuff really does work.
Yeah.
Okay. We have 3 different detox genes. This is phase 1, detoxification. So our body does something xenobotic, and I might not even say that right. Xenobotic metabolism, right? So any carcinogenics, our environment, I talk a lot about toxins, especially if people have these genes. Our skin's our biggest organ. And as women, especially, we're, 250 chemicals sometimes before we're out the door. And our shampoo has 25 things we can't even pronounce. And so people with this gene, so epoxides, highly, reactive epoxides will come in and can, they get encapsulated in fat lipids. And so phase 2 is glutathione, and we'll go into that with GSTP1, but this is basically just a harder time detoxing, right? So this one has so many ingredients for this to help support your liver, to help support your glutathione production. And we really just talk about charred food, secondhand smoke, candles even, and replacing slowly the things, not to overwhelm them. I talk even about an app called Think Dirty that you can scan and you can see how many chemicals are in there and carcinogens. And so really just kind of asking them questions, because it shows up a lot in the skin too with this, I've noticed.
It does. And I'll tell you, if this gene is positive with any of my patients that I see, I warn them that they should never, ever do any non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, Tylenols, or any of that kind of stuff, because they have a problem with their glutathione pathways. And if you're taking those non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, it will massively stress out your liver. And we find this gene very common with people that have elevated liver enzymes on blood tests as well, that we used to think were alcohol related induced, liver enzymes, but it's because their body has such a hard time detoxifying that the liver gets backed up, and this gene being positive can lead more to fatty liver syndrome and etc. So yeah, you're spot on. Very good.
Okay. So FTO, right? That obesity gene, high diabetes correlation. I will tell you, I've gone over so many of these reports, and I have never seen people with this in red that have not extremely struggled with their weight. I actually did sit down with this woman, and I was really surprised she had this all in red. And she was one of the fittest women I've ever seen. And I said to her, I told her, I've actually never, you must have an amazing lifestyle because, which is, 80%. I said, I've never seen anybody that hasn't really been overweight when I go over this report in red. And she said, oh, I was the fat kid. I was the fat kid. I worked my tail off to get where I'm at. So I talk a little bit about with this gene, ghrelin and leptin, right? That's your hunger hormone, leptin, you're satiated. And really about what diet would be best for you. This is actually a gene where if you research, keto is not good for FTO, and Mediterranean is beneficial. Watching your sugar and fat intakes. And I actually usually recommend, because this gene, and I have it in yellow, and it does show up for me. And I know what side of my family it comes from. It's from my mom's side. And they all have diabetes and struggle with weight. To me, it's a gene where you can mindlessly eat without thinking. It's like you have a switch that it's like a delayed response of I'm full until you're eating. And then all of a sudden now you have to unbutton your pants and can't breathe. So a lot of this is about me mindful. And I will direct them to like my Fitness Pal or an app where they can actually track. And I like intuitive eating, but with this gene, it's hard to intuitively eat. And you kind of got to see what's going in.
You're so spot on. This is the one where, I mean, people literally say they could just eat and eat and eat. They never feel full. And when they do, they feel like they're going to throw up. You're so spot on. And this one we find, and listen, maybe you might have some people clinically that tell you this, they will have their food, they'll eat their dinner, they'll go to bed, they'll wake up in the middle of the night, and they can't fall back asleep unless they eat something. So there's just, I mean, this one is such with obesity being the leading cause of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, depression, anxiety, all these things. This is something that I promise you, this gene, we're going to be evolving with this one big time in a lot of things that we're going to be doing, because if we can get people to recognize this gene is here, it empowers people so much, because it really takes the guesswork out of why am I struggling so much? And these folks, God bless these folks, so many people that have this gene, and this is a very common gene, it is, they go to the gym and they try to crush themselves. Sometimes they'll actually gain weight by working out and thinking they're eating better. And then they get in this vicious cycle of depression and anxiety because of that. And you're right, supplementing and supporting this gene with the nutrition and then the lifestyle changes. I don't know about you, but I find that if we give people a lot of good fibrous filled foods, a high Mediterranean diet or lots of leafy, dark green vegetables, that they do much better with this gene. But what I found is it really, when I explain to a lot of my patients, and primarily women patients that are really struggling with losing weight, when they see this, it's almost like relieving to them, because, oh, that's why I'm that way. So now that I've identified my enemy, I know the exact path to follow to defeat it. Does that kind of make sense with you?
Oh, 100%. I think it either empowers people or they feel like they have answers. I've seen it actually even happen the opposite way, where people have come in thinking that have been overweight, thinking I have this gene, I know I have this gene, and they don't have any weight genes. And then it's almost like, okay.
Sure. Yeah,
and they've actually lost weight too, because they realize it's not genetic. Because sometimes people have that story in their head, it's in my genes, which it is. But what's so amazing about these, you guys, is they're actionable.
That's it. They're actionable.
Actionable
That's the key. It is your genes, but they're actionable changes. So please continue. This is great.
Yeah. So, and with this gene, it makes you crave sugar and high fatty foods and carbs. And so it's harder to tell someone, oh, go eat all these leafy greens. But if
this is my gene profile, just so you know, and it's my mother's family side. They were all obese, all diabetic, all heart disease, all high blood pressure. Most of them died in their early 50s. And just like food was just nonstop sugar, carbohydrate craves, and potatoes, and they can never figure out why everybody was so bad. But I find this gene way more common than not. So anyway, please continue. It's so good.
So we talk a little bit about berberine and how it actually regulates blood sugar more than some diabetes medications, actually, in some studies. And alpha lipoic acid, it breaks down carbs and sugars. It's a really great antioxidant, and vitamin C to help with fat oxidation. Just kind of talk about those ingredients. This is a gene. This is one of my favorite genes because this is a gut gene, right? It says B12 on the report. But really, when I talk about this, there's an enzyme lives in the mucosal lining of our gut. It tracks and feeds certain bacteria that make up your B12, your neurotransmitters. This is our second brain. Some people say the first, I don't know, but that gut-brain connection. I usually ask about, do they have gut issues? This is the very first question I'll ask them. How is your gut? Really, usually when you have this gene, you usually don't have a good, healthy gut. If you have this gene in red, here's a little something I like to share is, if you have this in red, then you are a non-secretor. Have you heard of secretor, non-secretor status?
Oh yeah, for sure. You're right, yeah.
And so we talk about that because there is a very popular old diet, it's been around probably 30 years, right? The blood type diet. Yep. And to even be on that diet, you have to know your secretor status. So I've had people want to come just to get the report to find out their secretor status. So if you have this in red, so our blood type antigens, we secrete those in our saliva, our digestive tract, and they help protect us from viruses, foodborne illnesses. It's just an added layer of protection. And so if you're a non-secretor, then you're not secreting. You don't have that extra blood type antigen to protect you as much. So it's just a little tidbit for people, but talk a lot about gut health with this. We talk anxiety and depression, deficiency in B12, anemia, all of this all correlates. Low amino acids even, lysine, things like that will show up on this one. We talk about SAMe, that's something our body makes on its own. It needs B12 enough to do it. That's why it's in here as well. Most people with this gene will test with really low B12 levels when they go get a test. And you guys all, everybody out there knows so much about gut health, so it'd be very easy for you guys to talk about gut health with this. Mushrooms are really good for you. Algae, oats, and barley to add into the diet as well.
With this gene, we find a lot of correlation between patients that have a lot of specific autoimmune issues, obviously because of the gut correlation, but I'm surprised if I see someone that has any type of MS, if they don't have this. And we find a lot of issues with fibromyalgia, chronic inflammatory issues, and et cetera with this gene as well. So this is a good one, a big one to know.
Yeah. Okay, this is that phase 2 detoxification, oxidative stress. This is the glutathione gene. And that will come in, right? And it'll take it from fat soluble, water soluble, so you can flush out the toxins. It's the easiest I can say. It's the master antioxidant of the body. We make it on our own. Some people have a harder time making that. This is a gene where if someone was to go get an MRI or, a contrast dye, anesthesia, we talk about maybe going to the practitioner and getting a glutathione IV or injections to help flush all of that out of their system as well. Talk about certain cofactors that you even need to make glutathione on your own and how important it is to add in those dark leafy greens and broccoli, and quercetin's in here, anti-inflammatory, antihistamine. So oxidative stress, and I don't like to give disease states. They can just Google oxidative stress and what it does to the body. It does a lot, right? But it usually shows up in your mucosal linings first. This has been called the leaky gut gene. Shows up in bladder, endometrial lining, lungs, all of those areas first before down the road what it can do to the body.
Very good.
Okay, IL-6. This is one of those inflammatory genes we were talking about, interleukin-6. This will show up even in our fitness report too, because muscle recovery and everything kind of turns on your immune system. It's good to have a good immune response. In fact, like I just went and did a Wim Hof ice bath, and he was talking all about how this gets your IL-6 up and how good it was to have your IL-6. But if your body, not only our environment and toxins and the stress, but if you have an overactive inflammatory response, then it's going to do damage to your body, right? And so we just, again, talk about those. Okay, MTHFR it could be a whole hour conversation. I try to keep it very simple and direct them if they want to learn more about them. I say methylation is a huge process, 7 huge steps to methylate, but really I want to get them off folic acid. I want to get them to start looking at labels. And so I will just let them know folic acid, synthetic form, it's in all of our food supply, anything fortified. It's in there because that helps prevent birth defects, and a lot of people are folate deficient, right? But if you can't convert it, it's actually harmful to you, and it can become, it can toxify you. When I talk about my story, when I was taking $1,800 worth of supplements, those 52 pills, guess what was in most of them? Folic acid, and that's what was getting me sick. You have a really good call on MTHFR, and I'd like to send that to people as a good follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay. This is another homocysteine one, and this is something I always tell people, especially if they have MTHFR and MTRR, and even actually FUT too, get a homocysteine panel. That's not something routinely that's done. In fact, my father just went into the hospital, was getting, having to have AFib machines and different surgeries for his heart, and they didn't test for homocysteine. And I said, could you just go get a homocysteine test, please? They're like, who asked you to do this? And it was extremely high. So this is something that it's inflammation of the heart, and it can, so there's an enzyme, it takes homocysteine and can convert it to a non-harmful form, right? You say methionine, is that how you say that? So, get your homocysteine levels checked because it can lead to blood clots, can lead to heart disease, and stress reduction is very important. We talk all about those things and the ingredients that are in here. CoQ10. Did you guys know that like this is something again that our body makes on its own, but you just like collagen, as you age, you stop making it. I heard you had to eat like 2.5 pounds of liver meat to get enough.
Yeah, it's almost impossible for most people to get enough of this.
Yeah.
And this one is so important. I mean, this is energy. This is one of the reasons why I tell people they're like the Walking Dead, because most people have this gene that's problematic. They don't have enough CoQ10. Their diet is nowhere near it. And most folks get stuck eating so much, processed food. And this just completely shuts. I mean, processed food in this gene, it literally is, well, like it says here, it's the kryptonite for it, and people wonder why they feel so bad and feel so horrible. They get stuck in this vicious cycle. And if this gene's positive, processed food you have to avoid like the plague. You have to. And what I found is once you show people this, they will avoid it. Now it's like, oh, I had no idea that I should stay away from processed food. And then they do it for 2 weeks and they come back, Trish, and they're like, I cannot believe how great I feel just by showing them this. And it's the knowledge part of seeing this. So please continue. This is great.
Yes, this is the only gene that we actually do supplement in your nutrition, even if you have a green. It's that important. So we do supplement with green in the right form for you, because there's ubiquinone and ubiquinol. And so you can see right here where the green and the yellow and the red and the difference. So I point out which one is theirs. As they age, they might need more. They might need more in their 60s, 70s than what's in their supplement. That's something that was very stressed to me when I was learning about this. But what's awesome is now you'll know what form you actually need by looking at your report. And there's ways to start boosting this on your own. And that's, again, with the intermittent fasting, avoiding the processed foods, and HIIT workouts too.
That's right.
Okay, PON1, this is another cholesterol gene, and we have our bad cholesterol, right? We don't want that to become oxidized. again, I just kind of really talk about it's another cholesterol gene. I don't go deep into this one. Do you have anything to add to this one that would be useful, you think?
No, I just know that, 20 years of doing functional medicine, that on a blood test, cholesterol is one of the least important things that we discuss, but it's the number one thing that people want to know about. I think it's important to point out if they do have these levels, then it's something they need to be aware of. I agree that this one's not the most important when it comes to your cholesterol oxidated, but I do find a correlation between this and things like triglyceride elevations and other issues. So it just gives people, in my opinion, when they see these levels that are yellow or red, it gives them more of a, okay, I'm ready to take some lifestyle change actions, because that's what this one really is. This one is really great on lifestyle. So yeah, it's important, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just one little slice of the puzzle here. So please continue.
Okay, we're almost done. SOD2. This one is a lot of research is starting to come out about this one, right?
Yes.
So how I was taught about this one is free radicals. Most people know what free radicals are, but they think of it mostly like about skin, because that's been heavily promoted. Skincare, it's free radicals in our skin, vitamin C in our skincare. But this one has to do a lot with mitochondrial waste, actually. So gas in your car, just like, there's an exhaust, same thing. Mitochondria have very highly reactive waste. Our body is really smart, and it has the first line of defense. We have something that is able to help neutralize that. And so if you have this gene, then you're more susceptible to not being able to neutralize these very highly reactive waste. And so if that starts targeting, damaging your cells, your DNA, then we're going to start duplicating damaged cells. And,
with this gene as well, this is really important because mitochondria, let's just say ever since 2020, mitochondria has become a very, very, very hot topic for almost all healthcare practitioners out there, because we are now seeing mitochondrial damage causing long symptoms in people's lives. And what we're finding is people right now who are expressing and experiencing long symptoms of anything, really long symptomatological issues. This guy right here seems to be the culprit in many, many cases. And when you can have a customized nutrition for you based off of supporting that, it is a night and day difference. There's so much more I want to say about this. This is not the place to say it, but let's just say that there's a tremendous amount of research that's happening right now globally around this gene. And what's amazing to me is we're already so far ahead of the curve with what we're doing, because we've already identified the gene, what it does, how it responds. And then we've already identified, with science and data that you're seeing right here, solutions to help support that gene imbalance. And let's just say that in the world right now, people that are dealing with a lot of long symptoms after getting sick with bugs and viruses, it's important to know where you sit on this gene right here. Does that make sense?
100%. Yes, it does. I'd like to show them how, that first line of defense is MSOD. It's an enzyme. And so when I say we're filling in the gaps with your nutrition, you really are. Like, for example, spirulina, right? The reason it's in there has high levels of MSOD in it. So we're actually helping support that exactly right there. Anything antioxidant. So the darker the berries, the darker the leafy greens, we want to go against that. I talk a lot about lifestyle too, as far as free radicals, just in general, drinking out of plastic water bottles. Yeah. And, microwaving your food in plastic, storing some plastic, things like that too, that can disrupt. So the last two more. This is, again, another one of those cytokine genes, inflammatory genes. Because I don't go deep into these, especially with the inflammatory ones, because they're just so grouped. Anything with this one?
Again, I'm the same way. I picked out the inflammatory ones and I said, look, you've got the genes that are going to have you be more predisposed for all inflammatory illnesses, which leads to all symptom, sickness, and disease. So you just have to, if you choose to be happy and healthy, or at least healthy, you've got to be tighter with your lifestyle. It's just the way that the good Lord made you, and that's just what you need to be aware of. And it really is empowering for people to know that, whether they do something with it or not. But this one, I will tell you that, any inflammatory gene, but especially this one, it's more than just the nutrition. This one, with any inflammation, it's lifestyle change, and especially implementing intermittent fasting has just been really such a game changer, because so many people that have these inflammatory genes, they don't produce enzymes. Their body doesn't produce amylase, lipase, and protease. And so when they eat food, they get intestinal leukocytosis, which is basically an inflammatory immune response when they eat food, and any kind of food for that matter. So knowing this, intermittent fasting and supporting with nutrition is just a game changer for sure.
Amazing. This one's my favorite.
Mine too. I'm a big fan of vitamin D.
Yes.
It's really good.
500 processes in the body, right? Something like that. So
first of all, vitamin D is responsible for over 3,000 different genetic sequences for happening in your body. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Every single cell in your body has a vitamin D receptor to it, every single one of them. This is kind of an important thing to know. And I will tell you, Trish, it was so frustrating for me for years, because I knew the importance of vitamin D. I mean, I'd studied with Dr. Michael Hollick, the world leading researcher and expert on vitamin D, and all the stuff that vitamin D can help you with. And so I would start testing my patients, and I would find vitamin D low all the time. And I'm like, man, we're gonna rock through this, and everybody's gonna do amazing. Then I'd put them on vitamin D, and I'd retest them in 3 to 6 months, and their levels wouldn't change. And these people are swearing up and down that they're taking the vitamins, that they're doing all the right stuff. And by the way, even K2 doesn't increase absorption of vitamin D3. That's a massive misnomer. If you don't have the VDR gene proper, that's what's messing people up. And I got to tell you, we're finding this more than I thought we would find on people. This is something that, I think not just our generation, but our children are going to have more of this. And there was a recent study that was just published in September of 2022 that said, this is huge, that said that if your vitamin D levels were below a 50, that you have a 25% increase in all-cause mortality, like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke. You die 25% more prone to die from those things if you don't have the right amount of vitamin D. So people are taking it, but they're not getting better, and it's because they don't have this gene working like it's supposed to. So please go ahead.
Yeah, I love all that. Yes, I just really want them to know how important it is, and that actually, here's the thing with this gene. This is when you have to go get tested. You have to see what your levels are. If you have it in red, we give you 8,000 ICUs. If it's in yellow, it's 4,000. And for some, 80% of the population without a genetic deficiency is deficient in D. And we don't know if they're getting sun, what their diet consists of. We only know based on genetic markers. So that's something. Mine were extremely low. And there's so many studies linking this gene to thyroid health. Oh, and we know immune, but
did you know that? So this, if your vitamin D levels are subadequate, which on a blood test, the main research says that they want it to be between a 50 and a 100 nanograms per milliliter, like between a 50 and 100. I like it between 60 and 100, but the list goes on and on. Like your risk of cancer goes up astronomically. Your risk, did you know that your risk of having to have a cesarean section delivery goes up almost 75% if you don't have enough vitamin D in your system? And most people don't, because this is off. And you have a 65 or 70% chance increase of developing preeclampsia during pregnancy if you don't have the list goes on and on and on. To me, this is such an important thing to know. And I agree with you 100%, not just knowing what this level is with the gene, but at least once, if not twice a year, go spend $20, $25 and go get a vitamin D test. So you're supplementing enough, because if your levels are really, really super deficient, you want to take the nutrition, but you want to have some extra on top of that. until that level gets built up, above that 60, nanograms per milliliter level. This is, to me, this is a big deal. This is a big deal one to know. So
you're taking it with the ADK too. I'm sure that's going to help support.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, 100%. And look, right now we're recent research out of the UK is showing that treating high levels of neurodegenerative diseases, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, MS, all these things, they're treating this with high levels of vitamin D. They're trying to get people's vitamin D levels even above 100 to 120, and they're finding that 100 to 120 starts to regenerate some of those neurodemyelinization diseases. So more and more data is going to keep coming out about vitamin D. I mean, listen, this is an antimicrobial peptide. So if your vitamin D is insufficient, you have a higher chance of getting an infection of all causes. I mean, parasites, candida, yeast, fungus, let alone viruses. So this one is a big deal. And, if I have a patient that, God forbid, could only do one nutrient and we found that they were deficient in vitamin D, that's what I'm going after first, because it's such a giant domino, everything from your hormones to your cholesterol to your nerve and brain function. I mean, I know a lot about vitamin D, and this guy's he's important. If I was going to get a tattoo, it'd be vitamin D. So just FYI, that's how much I love it. Anyway, go ahead, please continue.
I love that. We just talk about how to also boost your levels through your diet and sun, and how sun is not bad for you, and make sure you get some direct sunlight. And especially there's even an app for that tells you the best time to go sit out and absorb vitamin D too. So resistance training, and again, let them know what D-rich foods are and where they can find those. And then really that's the end. I show them these are all the studies. If they want to research, they can, and I will tell them this is their actual supplement facts in the back, and I will let them know this is for half a dose, and this is when you actually get your formula, it might be a little bit different. This is a rough draft. We actually sometimes, I want to talk, and I do, because I will get people being like, why do I have 28,000% of B12 in mine? So we talk a little bit about the RDA and why it was formulated.
How do you explain RDA to the average bear? What would you say?
I say that it's very outdated, and it was it's enough to keep you alive, right? It was enough to make sure that you were alive. Now, I heard that it was created during the war, right? So that there was enough.
It was enough to just barely keep you alive at the time of that, that they did those studies. And the RDA is, I mean, it's so sad how low the RDA is. It's when somebody brings up the RDA to me, it's almost like I know that you really don't have a grasp on this, because you still want to talk about the food pyramid we learned about in 1980. It's just things that were thrown out there, but really don't have a lot of science, data, research behind it. I mean, the RDA of like vitamin D, according to certain organizations, is like 400 to 600, IUs a day, and the average adult uses 5,000 a day. It's just so outdated. So I think it's good that you address that. I think that's a really good thing, because I really don't. I mean, I just tell people, because you're not getting enough. But I think that's so good that you do address that, because people are going to ask that question, and if you don't address it while you're in front of them, they're going to go home and probably question it. And who are they going to ask? They're going to ask Dr. Google, and that's not going to end up very well for the patient, at all.
That's true. And they will also ask you if it's FDA approved, right? And so I like to say no, supplements unfortunately aren't any of them, but your Twinkies are.
That's exactly right. Look, and I always like to remind my patients, I'm just very straightforward. I always like to remind my patients, I don't want the FDA regulating my nutritional products. Please remember that the FDA approved every single drug that was ever recalled that actually has killed people. So, I'm good with just taking my supplements. You're never going to have, we don't ever want anyway, FDA approved supplements. They don't exist. And if the FDA regulates supplements, then you're going to need a prescription to get them. And that's the end of nutrition as we know it. But that's a whole nother conversation. So first of all, I know I'm going to ask you one more question. First, that was amazing, by the way. Like, I'm really super impressed with you. And you communicate this so effectively. You've obviously done this many, many times. I'm sure the first few times you fumbled through it, trying to figure it out, but you did some research on your own, and then you continued to just kind of power through it. And now you've mastered this as a skill, and you say it so eloquently and then so confidently that you come off, and you are an expert of this. And so I just want to encourage people that are out there listening, if you and I can do this, Trish, anybody can do this. No offense to you or I, but we're just people like everybody else, right? So exactly. What would you say, and then we'll get off here in a second, but how would you encourage people to just jump into this? If they're new to looking at these reports and they feel overwhelmed, talk to me about just how to keep it simple, and where would you tell people to start?
I will tell you that watch this over and over. Watch these calls, you learn, take notes, but really less is more. No one knows even if you're saying a word wrong or right, because they don't even honestly know, unless you're sitting down with a doctor. That might be a little nerve-wracking.
They don't know either, sorry, but it's okay.
They don't even know.
They don't.
So, posture, confidence, and realize you're just trying to help someone. You're just trying to get them to really understand. The simpler the better. Yeah, keep it simple. And just like how you learned about all the the gut products by watching it over and over, it starts sinking in a little bit, and then you just have more confidence. And it doesn't have to take all day. You can go over a report in 20 minutes.
Yeah, agreed. And essentially, please tell me if I'm wrong, but 99% of the time when I go over a report, I'm essentially just reading the report to the patient and making sure that they understand it. Keep it simple. Don't go too deep in the weeds. Most people don't need a 30-minute lecture on physiology. They're only going to listen to about 3 minutes at a time of what you have to say anyway. Just give them some reassurance of why they're doing the test, what we found, give them some action steps, and encourage them the reason why they need to take their nutrition. This is a customized formula based off of your genetic code, and there's no other product out here that's like this. This is your unique formula that is going to help you if you'll stay consistent with it. So would you agree with that, Trish?
That is how I always end. I always end with consistency. I always end with telling them to either set a timer on their phone to remind them to take it, or get a pill box AM, PM, so you can see at the end of the week, how many doses did you skip? How consistent were you? Because nothing's going to work without consistency.
Yeah, you're right. Well, listen, it's 9 o'clock. You and I could probably do this for 2 or 3 more hours. And I'm asking you, begging you, let's come back. I want you to do this again with me, because I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think you're absolutely amazing. And I would like to encourage more people that are listening and watching, go back and watch this video again. This one will be a game changer for you. And share this with your friends and family. This is really simple, and there really are some amazing action steps that people can take. So, Trish, final thoughts that you would leave with everybody tonight?
There is so many people out there looking for this.
Yeah.
And all they have is us. They only have us to share it. So get out of your own way and spread the word. Spread the word.
Yeah. Trish, thank you so much. I'm super impressed with you. Keep up the great work. We all have a lot of lives to change together, and we're all here for such a time as this. So everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. I know that I did. Until we meet again, I'm Dr. Eric Nepute. God bless you. God bless America. God bless the world. Stay smart out there, everybody, and please protect your babies. I love you guys. Tricia, thank you so much, and we'll see you all next Wednesday night. Bye, everybody. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.